Okay, so AI. It's embedding itself into pretty much everything, isn't it? Moving so incredibly fast.
It really is. Almost hard to keep up sometimes.
Exactly. But here's a really big question that feels more important every day. How are we, the humans, actually meant to interact with it?
That's the multi-million-dollar question, yeah.
Are we supposed to be in charge? Or just watching? Or maybe in some cases, are we completely out of the picture?
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what we're doing today. We're diving into a whole stack of source material that really breaks down human involvement in AI processes.
Yeah, some really good analysis in there.
We're going to unpack the different ways humans and AI can work together,
Yeah.
looking at this whole spectrum, from total human control right through to complete AI autonomy.
And yeah, the source material, it doesn't just like scratch the surface, right?
Oh, right.
It kicks off with some core terms. You might have heard those loop ideas: human in the loop, human on the loop, human out of the loop, HITL, HOTL, HUTL. But what's really interesting, I think, is how it then goes beyond those basics to look at much richer, sort of more nuanced ways we collaborate and different levels of autonomy, too.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's unpack this. Starting with those basics, the loops. What do they, tell us about the human's role?
So fundamentally, this terminology, HITL, HOTL, HUTL, it's all about mapping out where humans fit into the AI's operational process. How deeply involved are they?
Okay.
And it really comes down to a key trade-off. How much human control and oversight do you need versus how fast and scalable you need the whole system to be?
Right. Control versus speed. Makes sense.
So human in the loop, or HITL, that's the most hands-on one. The human is actively, continuously involved, like really deep collaboration.
Integrated right into the workflow.
Exactly. The human is part of the process. And the key thing here, according to the source, is that the AI's results have to be checked or approved by a human before they actually, reach the end user or have an effect.
So the human is like the final gatekeeper, the required sign-off.
Precisely. The human provides that crucial feedback, makes corrections, applies judgment. This is the model you see where errors have really high consequences, where you need absolute accuracy.
Like in medicine.
That's a prime example the source uses. AI might flag something on a scan, maybe, but a doctor has to rigorously review it, confirm it before any diagnosis happens.
Okay.
Or think about sensitive financial stuff, like deciding on credit risk. You layer in human expertise to make sure it's fair and accurate beyond just what the algorithm says.
Right. Places where a mistake getting through is just not an option. Where else does HITL pop up?
Well, the source mentions content moderation for really sensitive stuff, detailed image or text labeling, especially when you're training high-stakes AI models.
For training data quality.
Yeah, exactly. Processing complex documents, too, like legal contracts, medical records, anywhere you need that nuanced human judgment, or it's a high-stakes decision. And the benefits are pretty clear. Better accuracy, better data, transparency, trust. Because people know a human's involved, and the system keeps getting better from that human input.
But I imagine all that human checking must slow things down quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. That's the trade-off. It can make the process way slower than full automation.
Yeah.
And it's often more expensive. You need skilled people. Plus, and the source points this out, humans aren't perfect either. We can make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes can, unintentionally affect the AI or the final outcome.
Okay, so HITL, high involvement, high accuracy, but slower and potentially costly. What about the next one? Human on the loop, HOTL.
HOTL is more about supervision, oversight. The human monitors the AI, watches what it's doing, and steps in if something seems off or needs correction.
If necessary.
Right. And a really big difference from HITL is that the AI's results can go out, often do go out, before a human has explicitly reviewed them.
Oh, okay.
Human intervention usually happens later, maybe to fix errors that slip through, or just provide feedback so the AI does better next time.
So the AI leads,
Yeah.
and the human is kind of like quality control after the fact, or a safety net.
Kind of, yeah. You typically use this when getting results out quickly is more important than having every single one perfect from the start. There's a higher tolerance for some errors getting to the user as long as you can catch and fix them later.
What are some examples?
General content moderation is a good one. AI filters the bulk, humans review the flag stuff after it's been processed, or maybe document labeling where AI categorizes things automatically and humans come in later to correct any mistakes. Fraud detection systems often work like this too, flagging suspicious things for a human analyst to investigate further.
Speed is the obvious plus side then. What about the downsides?
Yeah.
The challenges?
Well, like you said, errors can reach the user first. But the source material really hammers home the risk of automation bias here.
Ah, right. We trust the machine too much.
Exactly. It's a big risk. Humans monitoring the system can become over-reliant. Just assume the AI is always right. They might miss mistakes or just not step in even when the AI's clearly gone wrong.
That's worrying.
It is. And the source mentions that regulations like the EU AI Act, we'll probably talk about later, specifically say that people doing this oversight need training to spot and fight against that bias.
That's a really critical point, training people not to trust it blindly. Okay, and then the third loop, human out of the loop. Who TL?
WhoTL is, well, pretty much what it sounds like. Once the system is set up and running, there's no human involved in the day-to-day operation at all.
Pure automation, maximum efficiency.
That's the goal. Maximum efficiency, speed, scalability. Think of like fully automated factory assembly lines or routine data processing where the rules are really simple and fixed.
Simple chatbots, maybe?
Yeah, the source mentions simple rule-based ones that handle basic queries without ever needing a human. That's HOTL.
And the risks here seem obvious, especially for complex stuff.
Huge risks in many areas. Without any human judgment, errors from the AI's programming or maybe biases in its training data can just happen and spread without anyone noticing.
Yeah.
And then there's what the source calls the responsibility gap. If a fully autonomous system messes up or causes harm, who's actually accountable? It's incredibly tricky.
You can't exactly blame the algorithm.
Right. The source notes AI doesn't have a moral compass. You can't hold it responsible like a person. And that's why regulations, like that EU AI Act again, essentially stop true HOTL in critical high-risk areas. They mandate some kind of human oversight.
Okay, so just to quickly recap the loops. HOTL is deep human involvement before anything goes out, focusing on accuracy.
Right.
HOTL is human supervision, often after the output, trying to balance speed and catching major errors.
Yeah, oversight role.
And WhoTL is full autonomy, fast and efficient, but really only suitable for low-risk tasks because there's no judgment or easy accountability.
That sums up the basic spectrum really well. And the source is clear. Picking between them isn't just a tech decision, it's strategic. It depends on your accuracy needs, your speed needs, how much risk you can handle, and frankly, ethical considerations too.
This is where, for me, the source material gets really fascinating because it shows how the thinking has evolved, right?
Yeah.
Beyond just these three loops into a much richer set of ideas about interaction.
Totally. It gets much more nuanced.
There's this concept mentioned that kind of flips the perspective a bit. AI in the loop. How's that different from human in the loop?
Yeah, it's a really interesting shift. Instead of humans watching over the AI in the loop is about using AI to actually boost human performance.
Ah, so the AI helps the human do better.
Exactly. The goal is to weave AI into human workflows to make the human faster, smarter, more capable, especially when they're dealing with tons of complex information.
So the AI isn't the thing being checked, it's the tool making the human more effective, like a power-up.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. The focus shifts from just tweaking the AI's performance on its own to optimizing the whole human AI team, with the human still in the driver's seat but amplified by the AI.
What are some examples?
The source gives some cool ones, like embedding AI into decision-making frameworks. Think about, say, the military's OTA loop observe, orient, decide, act. AI could rapidly process battlefield data, observe patterns, and present critical insights to the human commander to help them orient and decide much faster.
Wow, okay. And we're seeing this in, like, creative fields of knowledge work, too, aren't we?
Absolutely. All those generative AI tools. Designers using AI to quickly mock up concepts or variations.
Yeah, I use AI writers sometimes.
Right. AI writing assistants helping authors or journalists get past writer's block or just polishing text. That's AI in the loop. The human still controls the overall direction, the final piece, but the AI is there speeding things up, enhancing their ability to do the job.
Okay, that makes sense. It's augmentation.
Precisely. And beyond just loops, the source also talks about more fine-grained ways to classify automation levels. These levels of automation, or LOA scales, they give you a more detailed map from full human control to full machine control.
Like the self-driving car levels everyone talks about, level 0, level 1, etc.
That's the perfect example, yeah, because it's so relatable. The SAE levels for driving go from level 0, where the human does absolutely everything.
Maybe just warnings.
Right, exactly. To level 1, which adds basic help like adaptive cruise control. Level 2 starts combining things like steering and speed control, but the human must constantly watch and be ready to jump back in.
And then The higher levels need less constant watching.
Less and less. Level 3 lets the car handle driving in specific situations, but the human still needs to be alert and ready to take over if the car asks. Level 4 is high automation. The car drives itself within certain defined areas or conditions, like some of those robo-taxi services we're seeing.
Like geofenced areas.
Yeah. And level 5 is the dream, right? Full autonomy anywhere, anytime. The source also mentions other scales for different areas, like one from apptest.ai for general AI automation, from simple scripts up to really advanced augmented AI. It just shows that autonomy isn't one single thing. It really depends on the job it's doing.
This more detailed view seems to lead naturally into something called human autonomy teaming, or HAT. That sounds less about just levels of control and more about, well, teamwork.
That is exactly the shift. HAT doesn't see it as master-servant, but as cooperative partners. Humans and AI working together, relying on each other to reach a shared goal.
Interdependent.
Yes, exactly. It's about teaming and augmented intelligence, combining the best of both worlds, human strengths like creativity, adapting to surprises, emotional understanding.
Common sense.
Right, common sense, combined with AI strengths like crunching huge amounts of data super fast, spotting patterns humans might miss. The goal is to achieve things neither could do alone.
And within this teaming idea, the source says humans can play different roles.
Yeah, it breaks down the human role in the team. You could be a supervisor, monitoring and correcting, kind of like HOTL again.
Okay.
You could be a bystander, just passively watching, though the source warns that can lead to not really understanding what the AI is doing.
But you lose touch.
Or you could be a true collaborator working jointly in real time, really integrated. Or finally, a user of assistive agents, where the AI is clearly a tool helping you, which ties back to that AI in the loop idea.
So it's defining how you fit into the team. The source also gives some specific names for different ways this teaming actually works in practice, these hybrid models.
Yeah, these are really concrete examples of HAT. One is tiered review. Basically, the AI handles almost everything, the routine stuff. Humans only get involved for the exceptions, the really tricky edge cases or complex situations the AI just isn't built for.
Like AI in finance flagging weird trades, and a human expert looks into just those.
Perfect example. AI does the heavy lifting, humans handle the complex investigations.
Okay, AI for routine, humans for exceptions. What about centaurs? That's a memorable name.
It is, inspired by those human-computer chess teams that were so dominant. It's about a clear split based on strengths. The human sets the overall strategy, provides context, makes the final judgment call. The AI handles specific subtasks, maybe rapid calculations, data analysis, searching huge databases. The human guides, the AI assists with its specialized skills.
Human strategy, AI tactics, got it. And cyborgs. Sounds intense. Maximum integration.
That's the idea behind it. Cyborg models mean really deep, continuous, real-time integration. Human and AI actions are woven together so tightly that afterwards it's hard to even tell who did what exactly.
Like it's seamless.
Almost, yeah. Think about modern tools like Microsoft Copilot, maybe. It suggests code or text right as you're typing. It feels like this very fluid, almost indistinguishable contribution between you and the AI in the moment. And just another way to think about this, the source mentions Google DeepMind's framework for AGI autonomy levels. It goes from AI as just a tool, fully controlled, up through consultant, collaborator, expert, all the way to agent, which is fully autonomous. Just another lens on this whole spectrum.
It really feels like making this HAT stuff work smoothly must involve a lot of careful thought, especially around like who does what and when and how that might change.
Oh, it's incredibly complex. Big challenges include dynamic role allocation, figuring out how the AI's autonomy level or the human's role should adjust on the fly depending on the situation.
That sounds hard.
And building the right level of trust is critical. You need people to trust the AI enough to actually use it effectively, but not so much that they fall into that automation bias trap we talked about. That's a constant tightrope walk across nearly all these models.
So designing the interface, the way humans interact, and the training becomes super important.
Absolutely essential to avoid those pitfalls.
Okay, so let's step back a bit. We've seen all these models. Why is thinking so hard about human involvement actually so critical when we're building and using AI? What are the big picture takeaways here?
The source really frames this as the crucial so what. Why does it matter how humans and AI interact? And the benefits of keeping humans involved are, well, profound.
Like accuracy.
Definitely. Humans significantly boost accuracy and reliability, especially when things get complex, ambiguous, or maybe totally new situations the AI wasn't trained for. We also provide that essential high-quality labeled data and feedback that helps the AI learn and improve.
And the bias issue we touched on earlier seems huge here too.
It's absolutely fundamental. Human oversight is vital for spotting and mitigating biases that might creep in from the training data or the algorithm itself. That's crucial for fairness, especially when AI is used in really sensitive areas, hiring, loans, maybe even criminal justice.
Yeah, you need that check.
And human involvement also helps with transparency. When humans are in the loop, it's easier to understand and explain why an AI made a certain decision, especially with those black box models. That's essential for building trust.
So it makes AI feel less like some mysterious oracle and more like a tool we can understand and rely on.
Exactly. People are more likely to trust and accept the technology if they know there are human checks, balances, and ethical considerations involved. Human feedback also means the system can adapt better to changes in the real world or user needs. And ultimately, by playing to our complementary strengths, human creativity, emotional smarts, common sense versus AI speed, data processing, pattern finding, having humans involved, can just lead to better results overall than either could get alone.
Okay, tons of benefits. But surely there are downsides too, challenges, risks we need to watch out for.
Oh, for sure. We mentioned costs and resources earlier, right? Especially for that continuous HITL model, it can be expensive and require specialized staff.
And slow things down.
Yeah, it can definitely introduce delays, bottlenecks, especially if speed was one of the main reasons for using AI in the first place. And let's be honest, human error is always a factor. Our mistakes can affect the AI or the final outcome too.
Right.
But the source keeps coming back to automation bias as a really significant risk.
Yeah.
That tendency to just over-rely on the AI, assume it's right, even when our gut tells us something's off.
And that can lead to big mistakes.
Critical errors, yeah. And potentially, over time, it could even degrade our own skills, critical thinking, situational awareness. It's that paradox of automation. The tech designed to help us could actually make us less capable if we're not careful.
That's counterintuitive, but makes sense.
Yeah, the source really stresses that training needs to include teaching people when to doubt the AI, when not to trust it, not just how to use it.
And what about the bigger picture, the societal impacts?
Well, the source brings those up too. Concerns about job displacement from automation, obviously. The fact that current AI lacks real creativity or, emotional intelligence. And the risk that becoming too dependent just erodes essential human skills.
Okay, this definitely leads into the whole ethical minefield.
Absolutely. The source lays out the critical ethical and societal issues pretty clearly.
Hmm.
Things like fairness, making sure AI doesn't perpetuate or amplify existing biases and lead to discrimination.
Transparency.
Yep, transparency. Dealing with black box models, the need for explainable AI or XAI, making sure privacy and data security are protected, figuring out accountability, that responsibility gap when autonomous systems cause harm.
Who pays? Who's responsible?
Exactly. Ensuring human safety is paramount, respecting human autonomy and dignity, making sure AI isn't used to manipulate people, and then the broader economic disruption and even the environmental footprint of running massive AI models.
There's a lot to consider.
It is. And what's striking is that the source material consistently points to human oversight, human involvement, as a key way to tackle many of these ethical challenges. It's presented not just as a good idea, but almost as an ethical requirement.
So are we seeing this reflected in actual rules and regulations? Are governments stepping in to mandate human involvement?
They absolutely are. Governing AI is a huge global focus right now, and we're seeing frameworks emerge. The European Union's AI Act is probably the most prominent example, often called the first comprehensive AI law.
Right, I've heard a lot about that one. How does it handle human oversight?
It uses a risk-based approach.
Right.
So different rules apply depending on how risky the AI system is judged to be.
Makes sense.
And for AI systems classified as high-risk things affecting health, safety, fundamental rights, there's a really core requirement in Article 14. It specifically mandates human oversight.
Okay.
It says these high-risk systems must be designed so that actual people, natural persons, can effectively oversee how they operate. The whole point is to make sure humans can step in to prevent or minimize risks.
And what does effective oversight actually mean under the Act, based on the source? What do the humans need to be able to do?
The source highlights some quite specific things the Act requires for the people doing the overseeing. They need to properly understand what the AI can and can't do, its capabilities and limits.
Know the boundaries.
Exactly. And crucially, They need to be aware of automation bias and trained specifically on when not to just go along with the AI's output, when to question it, disregard it, override it.
So training against over-reliance is baked in.
It seems to be, yeah. They also need the practical ability to actually interpret what the system is telling them, understand the results, and they absolutely must have the power to override the AI, disregard its output, or reverse its actions at any time. Plus, the ability to just intervene or stop the system, like having a clear stop button.
Wow, that sounds incredibly thorough. Very specific requirements.
It really is. And for some really high-risk systems like remote biometric ID, the Act apparently demands verification by at least two qualified people.
Two sets of eyes.
Right. Now, the big practical challenge, as the source discusses, is actually making this work on the ground, defining what effective oversight truly looks like for all the different high-risk applications, and making sure the people doing it are properly trained, especially on fighting that automation bias. It needs lawyers, tech experts, human factor specialists all working together.
Yeah, implementing it sounds like the next big hurdle.
For sure. And the source also briefly mentions other frameworks popping up, like from NIST in the US, the OECD, and also the role of internal ethics committees within companies trying to navigate this.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground, from those basic loop concepts, HITL, HOTL, HUTL, through that whole richer spectrum of teaming models and autonomy levels.
Centaurs, cyborgs, AI in the loop.
Right. And then diving into why human involvement is so important, the benefits, the risks, like automation bias, the huge ethical considerations, and finally, how regulations like the EU AI Act are trying to mandate human oversight for risky AI.
Yeah, and I think the core message that comes through really strongly is that human involvement isn't just, a temporary patch for imperfect AI. It's actually a critical strength. It's what makes AI systems more accurate, more reliable, more ethical, and ultimately more trustworthy and robust.
It really boils down to finding that balance, doesn't it, between the amazing efficiency and scale AI brings and the human values, the judgment, the risk management that, well, only humans can really provide right now.
Absolutely. And the source material makes it clear that the right balance, the best model to use, really depends on the specific situation, the context, the risks involved in that particular application.
No one-size-fits-all answer.
Definitely not. And looking ahead, the path seems to be towards even more sophisticated teaming, more augmented intelligence, where humans and AI really work as complementary partners.
A true collaboration.
Yeah. But building that future well means we have to be proactive about ethics and safety, right from the start, baking it into the design, ethics by design, and having robust, enforceable rules like the EU AI Act, while still grappling with the challenge of making that effective human oversight actually work in practice. At the end of the day, responsible AI development is all about making sure this incredibly powerful technology empowers human potential rather than diminishing it. The future of AI, I think, is fundamentally tied to how well it collaborates with human intelligence.
That really leaves us with something for you, our listener, to think about as you go about your day. Consider the AI systems you interact with all the time. Could be recommendations on Netflix, could be automated customer service chats, maybe even just your spell checker.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Based on what we've talked about, where do you think the human fits in? Are they in the loop, on the loop, maybe out of the loop entirely in those systems you use? And more importantly, thinking about accuracy, risk, ethics. What role do you think the human should play in those specific systems? Why?
It's a fascinating question to apply to our own lives.
It really is. And hey, if you found this deep dive into human AI interaction interesting and valuable, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a second to like this and maybe share it with someone else who gets excited about these topics.
Yeah, spread the knowledge.
And definitely subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next deep dive. We'd also absolutely love to hear what you think about today's topic. Drop your feedback, your reflections, your answers to that final question in the comments section below. Let's keep the conversation going.